Hi, everybody. Today's topic, the question that was presented is why do people use alcohol and cocaine at the same time and what are the effects? If you are new to this channel, this is Dr. B with Dr. B Addiction Recovery. If you like our content, please go ahead and subscribe and press the like button. If you are interested, this is a nonprofit endeavor and you can contribute to us through Patreon for as little as $3 a month. The link is below. Let's get started. Why do people use alcohol and cocaine at the same time? I will break this down in a really simple format, just give you some information that you can digest and think about. First thing to know is that this is a very, very, very popular recreational drug combination, and it has traditionally been so, and it still holds today. In fact, 75 to 85% of cocaine users admit concomitant use of alcohol when they use cocaine. Now, that's a large number, and there's got to be a reason for this. Sadly, it has very, very profound negative and toxic consequences on the neurovascular system as well as the cardiovascular system. And the reason this seems to be so popular, probably mechanistically, it's because of three things. One, you have increased cocaine absorption. Two, you have an enhanced or laying around or an increase, depending how you look at it, as some of the more potent metabolites of cocaine because of the presence of alcohol. This is cocaethylene. And number three is slowing down in the elimination of the active metabolites of cocaine. Let me go briefly through cocaine as a class of drug and alcohol as a class of drugs. Cocaine is a stimulant, and I like to think of it as, with the stimulants, I always like to think of them as natural and synthetic. The synthetic are obviously amphetamines, which are usually prescribed, and then the methamphetamines, okay, which are the stuff that you know of that are made in labs or bought on the internet or whatever. As far as the natural ones, some things you might not think, some of the ones you might not think of is coffee. It's grown all over the world. There's also cat, which is KHAT, gat, and this is found in Africa and Arabia, and it also comes from a plant. And then you also have what I like to add into that mix nowadays. You also have kratom, depending on the dose. It does have increased energy stimulant effects, sort of. So you have the natural ones and you have the synthetic ones. Okay. Keeping that in mind, what are the effects? Bottom line, they seem to increase dopamine in the brain much more than opiates do. And although alcohol has some of that effect as well. And psychological and behavioral effects of stimulants, in particular cocaine, is you get this intense high energy depending on which form you use, the salt, the base, or the free base, and the route that you take it, intranasally, smoking it, intravenous. You have this intense high and euphoric effect that can last less than an hour, 15, 10, 30 minutes, depending on which form you use and if there's alcohol involved. But other effects are anxiety, paranoia, I said euphoria, mood changes. You can have aggressive behavior. You can have delusions. It has sympathetic system effects because it is sympathomimetic, is what they call it. You can have increased heart rate, sweating, dilated pupils, increased body temperature, which itself can be dangerous. Constricted blood vessels, your blood vessels narrow, which can have profound effects and are some of the most profound effects from the side effects of stimulant use. This increases blood pressure and could lead to strokes and heart attacks. Uh, you can have intense mental alertness for a short period of time. And I did say alert, dilated pupils. Uh, and there's also behavioral changes, right? There's a decrease in inhibition, increased risk taking, and craving as the drug effects wear off acutely. That's why you see people that use cocaine take it over and over and over again. In terms of alcohol, it's under the class of sedative hypnotics, which also includes benzodiazepines, barbiturates. And some of the effects of alcohol are decreased reaction time, slowed or slurred speech, loss of coordination, also loss of inhibition. They can have blurry vision, memory loss, blackouts, depression, nausea, vomiting, dehydration, impaired judgment, also risky behavior and actions that you wouldn't do otherwise. Okay, and so why do people like to take these two at the same time? In their mind, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is these are both considered party drugs. Okay, and they're always there at the same time, and it's just sort of opportunity that creates the situation where both of these can be abused at the same time. In addition, users think that there's a counter action from each drug to the other drug. For example, the alcohol might tame or take the edge off the highs of the cocaine that can create dysphoria and anxiety and things like that, versus euphoria and just feeling very alert and go, go, go. There's a sort of a belief in that culture that it does that. At the same time, the cocaine really slows down or has a counteracting effect on the slurring of the speech, decreased reaction times, walking funny, all of those neuropsychological and motor behavioral patterns that are sort of negative with alcohol. And in fact, data shows that it does do this. Okay? Now, each one of these substances are extremely dangerous when abused on their own with short-term and long-term consequences. You combine the two together, and it really enhances every single one of those issues that these drugs may have on their own. In fact, most emergency department visits for cocaine toxicity and or overdose, the patient does have alcohol in their system. Okay, and so it can really increase the health risks of taking each one of these individually alone. Okay, what is happening at the level of metabolism and pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics? Research sort of suggests, okay, as you know, the liver is the detoxification system of the body, but research kind of suggests that alcohol disrupts the metabolism of cocaine in a way where one of the byproducts of cocaine metabolism, cocoethylene, which is extremely potent and considered up to 30% stronger in terms of its central nervous system effects of cocaine, it really increases the amount of that byproduct in the system. Okay, so there's an increased production of cocoethylene once you take cocaine, if there's alcohol on board, because of how it affects the liver. Alcohol slows down the elimination process of cocaine from the liver. Okay, that means the liver is unable to get rid of this stuff, the active ingredient stuff, as rapidly as it would normally. Uh, uh, On top of that, alcohol causes cocoethylene, part of the cocaine, to kind of pass into the bloodstream, and cocoethylene causes corrosive damage to other organs. Okay, so the combination of these two increases all of the health risks and effects of each one of these individually, including some of the ones that don't seem to be directly a health issue. It increases risk of catching hepatitis C, HIV, unsafe sex, risk of trauma, violence, going to jail and having problems with the legal system, and increases chances of suicide. Okay, so it really, really magnifies and amplifies the situation. One more issue is that the treatment becomes much more difficult when someone is a polysubstance abuser, when it has to do with these two. What are the very specific issues with the body that this does? It increases the chances of overdose. What does that mean? Well, with alcohol, you could stop breathing. You can have vomit that goes down into your right lung and you choke yourself to death. With the cocaine, it's all of the other usual stuff, strokes, bleeding in different parts of the brain. As I said, heart attacks, irregular heartbeats, long-term heart damage, liver damage, and I've already discussed increased risk of suicide, hepatitis C, HIV. So everything is grossly amplified. The ischemic property of cocaine, what I mean by that, the vasoconstriction, making the vascular beds much more constricted, really decreases the flow of oxygen. And as you know, a heart attack is lack of flow of blood to the heart, where you can have that kind of attack to many organs, including your gut. I recall one particular case many years ago in Chicago when I was a surgical intern. Was a very presumably nice man who I was taking care of in the ICU for a couple of months, and I got to know his wife very well. And my job every morning was to go in there. He had his gut completely open from extensive swelling from the inflammatory process of the initial insult of what had happened and the surgical procedures. And my job was every day to change the dressings on his gut. Well, what had happened is he had gone on a cocaine and alcohol run one night, and the blood vessels to his stomach or his bowel really had constricted so much where he didn't get enough oxygen delivered to a certain portion of his bowel. I don't remember if it was small, large intestine, and that part of the bowel died. You start to get sick. He was too high to realize he was getting very sick, and this happens relatively quickly, and that part of the bowel died, and now an area of your body that is usually sterile became infected, and then he became septic. By the time he get to the hospital, they took him into the OR, cleaned him out, cut off that part of the bowel, but there was so much damage, so much inflammation, that there was very little that could be done. And for a couple months, that's what I did. Every day I changed the dressing on that open stomach, and he eventually sadly passed away. So those are the dangers of mixing alcohol and cocaine. I think it's one of the deadliest combinations out there, and I don't think most people realize it. And I hope this gives you some information and some bearing and some understanding on some of these issues. As I said before, if you like this video, click the subscribe and like button, and you can also click right above to my left to see other videos like it. See you next time.